Guys, and welcome back to the Wrestling Hideout Weekly Podcast. It's bi-weekly at the moment because we took a week off, but we are back. I am, of course, Rhys. I'm with my co-host, Liam.
Good afternoon.
And I believe you have a dedication for this episode to attend, so please go ahead.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are now on 97 subs and we're really proud of it. And we had quite a bit of feedback on our thoughts on Jeff Hardy's shorts. And I want to dedicate this episode to YouTuber Paralingia89, who decided to be a bit of a knob cheese and tried to start arguments with us. So, Mr. Paralinga89, you're more than welcome to always comment. We'll always be here for your pain.
We will have a toast for you after the show. Now, as I'm sure anyone that's been watching the podcast know how this works, is we started off discussing the weekly wrestling. Most of it's bad. So we are now discussing moments of wrestling history. Now, this week's topic, we are going with Mark Henry's Hall of Pain. This was chosen by you, so what was the thought behind this?
Basically, it started when I watched an interview on Talk Is Jericho about Mark Henry's time in WWE and how it came to the end, and how he's so proud of his Hall of Fame work. And people forget Mark Henry. He debuted wrestling in 1996. And he was with WWE for over a decade. He was actually signed to a 10-year contract. Did you know that?
Yeah, because he was meant to be one of the breakout stars. I was going to say, he was meant to be like one of the breakout stars, and this was something I was going to bring up right at the beginning of the podcast. He signed with them in 1996. The Hall of Pain, so his big, main event marquee stuff, 2011 is when that started. That's 15 years in the making.
It's incredible that he stayed with them that long. He had moments in his career with WWE or F. I mean, he was European champion back when he was teaming with one of my favorite Attitude wrestlers, D'Lo Brown.
Mm-hmm.
He of course was ECW champion, but ECW, WWE don't really mean that much.
Nope.
He did win the World Heavyweight Championship in 2011, 15 years after his debut. And if you look at his professional career, Most Improved Wrestler of the Year 2011, ranked number 9 out of all the wrestlers in the world 2012. And, think about it, it's not often that it takes somebody 15 years to get to the top. And it's not often that Vince would hold somebody there for 15 years, because he was always there doing something in the background. He was never off TV for that long, I seem to remember.
No, I mean, before the Hall of Pain started, he had those moments, such as he had a WrestleMania match with The Undertaker. So he had these sort of...
Good match.
Yeah, he had these moments where he could have propelled into stardom, per se. But to hang around for 15 years... to still be with the company after that long is just insane. I can't think of anyone else that comes to mind right now that has been with a wrestling company for that long to finally get a push and take it to the top.
I can think of wrestlers who've been in the industry in general between different companies, but never anyone that's signed with somebody and taken that long. To give you a bit of background on the guy is a genuinely bona fide athlete. He won the Arnold Strongman Classic, which in the weightlifting world is actually like the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the weightlifting Olympics. He is an Olympian. He came 10th in 1992 and 14th in 1996. Now, you may think 10th and 14th, but to actually get to the Olympic final is an amazing achievement. He's a silver and gold medalist in the Pan American Games. He is an NACAC champion in weightlifting, US national weight champion. He, I believe, is the US record holder for snatch and clean and jerk. Now listen to this here. The guy can lift 400 kilos from a standing position without bending his legs.
And to put that into comparison for our US friends, in pounds, that would be 880 pounds.
And to put it into prospect for our UK listeners, that is, into stone, 62 stone.
Yep.
63 stone, round it up. That is, Rhys, 3 times my body weight.
Yeah. It's
I'll give myself some credit. I'm not that heavy, but if you follow me.
No, I know exactly what you mean, and that is an incredible feat of strength. Yeah.
He is technically, he was called, there's the gimmicks. You get a lot of gimmicks in wrestling. He has a claim for one point in it to actually have been the world's strongest man. Have you ever heard of the Thomas Inch dumbbell?
I have not.
Okay, so he managed to lift, first man in history to one hand clean lift and push the unliftable Thomas Inch dumbbell, which is 78 kilos, or 172 pounds, one-handed.
Ah. Yeah, that's
According to Flex magazine, he's the second strongest man to ever live.
Oh wow, really?
So the guy, anyone who has ever watched wrestling, he looks like a lump, but the guy is crazy strong. So anyway,
the guy is
moving on from me fanboying about Mark Henry. He was trained by Tom Pritchard, who listeners of our show will know that we spoke about in a previous video.
Yep.
Or did we? Did that video?
That would be from our no, that would be from our Mount Rushmore of the importance of the wrestling business. I put him on my Mount Rushmore because of all the people he has had a hand in training.
Did. So he is also the fourth African American to win a championship in WWE after Booker T, The Rock, and Bobby Lashley. He's the fifth African American if you count Ron Simmons. I do not know why WWE don't count Ron Simmons, because they usually count the WCW championship in the lineage. That might just be a mistake on the notes I'm reading here. Here's a trick question for you, Rhys. How many children does Mark Henry have?
How many children does Mark Henry have? I'm going to guess 5.
He has 2 with his wife.
Okay.
1 with Mae Young.
The Mae Young one obviously being the most important.
Mark Henry forever will be known to the Attitude Era fans as the person who fathered a rubber glove with Mae Young.
Exactly. And here's the crazy thing. 10 years is a long, long time. But to go, in wrestling terms, to go from being sexual chocolate and having a hand as a child to being a legitimate, dominant main event player is quite a feat, because in a lot of cases that would kill a career, per se. Like, he'd be lumped in that sort of Santino Marella, Damien Sandow-esque comedy type character. So to merge out of that within 2, maybe 3 years, because he stopped being sexual chocolate earlier than people think.
He
was just sort of floundering in the mid-card.
He stopped being sexual chocolate around about 2004, I think, when they were changing their type of genre. They kind of did things. It didn't kind of fit in with the ruthless aggression. He stopped being sexual chocolate around about just about 6 months before he did his feud with The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Now, they almost pulled the trigger on him then. I did some research and they cancelled it at the last minute, but the Hall of Pain storyline was almost pulled as a trigger, if you follow me, in 2004. He decided he wasn't quite ready for the limelight. Now, also, Mark Henry's not bad on the mic as well.
This was about to be something I was about to bring up to you for 2 factors. Number 1, he has some killer promos.
Oh, yeah.
Number 2, when you think of the Hall of Pain, what is the first thing you think of?
Destroying everything.
In my head, I think of the John Cena promo, the retirement.
Oh God, the best promo. Some people call the best promo ever made. With the pink suit.
That was 2 years into the Hall of Pain. Which I don't think a lot of people truly grasp. I think a lot of people see that as like the beginning of the Hall of Pain.
It was already.
But he was dominant for years before this.
Yes, some of our listeners may think his Hall of Pain is only when he held the World Championship. No, his Hall of Pain started earlier. He was just doing it against much lower carded wrestlers.
Yeah, he used to go around breaking people's legs in the chair, if I recall.
Yes, and that thing with John Cena was amazing, where he came down to the ring. He said he'd had enough. He was going to retire. Cena came down. I believe he let him hold the belt and everything, didn't he?
Yeah.
And if it wasn't Big Match John, they'd have probably given him the title then.
Honestly, I think Mark Henry was a breath of fresh air during this period. Because this was a period just dominated by people like John Cena, Randy Orton, JBL, Rey Mysterio, Christian to a degree, I guess.
One more match.
But
just one more match. Sorry, it's Christian, isn't it?
Like Christian's another thing we need to person we need to talk about at some point, because
I know we're going off topic here and we're digressing, but Christian's work in AEW right now as 2023 is fantastic.
Yep.
Now he's somebody, which we won't go into too much detail to. I will say something. Christian's been wrestling on and off since 1998. And like obviously Mark Henry retired a good 6 years ago, so Christian's been the same sort of fire. It's just there isn't many of them left now, is there, from that era?
There really isn't.
You've got Edge, you've got Christian.
Both of which can't be going for much longer, you and I thought.
I think Paul Wright can step in the ring. He's not injured. He just don't think he wants to anymore.
Yeah, I think he's pseudo-retired.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, we're digressing, and this is our problem. Ladies and gentlemen, we are trying to shorten our videos slightly.
We are, just for a while, just so I can catch up on editing.
Yes. So I was going to talk to you about when he won the world title, because that's when people would up attention to him. Right. Before we get into that, I did some research.
Okay.
He defended his title 4 times in his reign. Then Roman Reigns has defended it in his entire reign. And do you know what the difference is?
Mark Henry works a full-time schedule?
Well, you're talking 3 months versus 3 years here.
That's crazy.
23 World Championship defenses in 3 months.
That's insane.
It's one of the highest ever that I could find.
I mean, you can't fault his work ethic.
Guy was defending it in Europe, in Australia, in Iraq, because obviously they went to Iraq at the time, in Afghanistan, in America. 23 defenses. It's crazy. So, he won the world title versus Randy Orton at Night of Champions 2011 on the 18th of September 2011. I remember watching this pay-per-view, and at the time, me and my friend, Carl, we... one's going to win this. There's no way they're going to give the world title to Mark Henry, and it's not going to happen. He's already lost the... he's already fought he's already fought Randy Orton 3 times for the world title and lost. Not going to happen. Gave him the title when everyone in the whole arena was quiet because they didn't know what to do. It was such a surprise.
Honestly, I think sometimes in wrestling you need those moments. Sometimes you just need to take a gamble on a wrestler and hope it pays off. Otherwise, the main event scene is stale. Look at the main event scene at the moment. It's Seth and Roman, and how long have they been on top?
2018?
If not earlier than that, surely. When did Seth win the title at Mania?
The Shield debuted in 2014. I think it's 2016.
Right, so that's 7 years
Nuts.
of the same people on top of the card. Other than, since that period of time, can you think of anyone that has been up there? Because the only other people that come to mind is you've had Sheamus, who's been a main event player for ages. You've had Finn Balor, who wrestled Seth and won the title, and he's been in the main event multiple times. Obviously, Lesnar is always around.
Drew, around since 2020.
Drew.
They're starting to build him up a little
Drew.
bit
I'll give you
again.
Drew.
They're starting to build him up a little bit again.
Yep. No, I'll give you Drew, yep.
When you had a few, I mean, kind of it did cross over a little bit with Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
You also had the failed New Day experiments.
Which I don't think failed because of the New Day.
It failed because of creative.
Yeah.
Obviously, you had, I think for a good couple of years, it was Brock that was dominating the main event, actually.
Like, even now, if you think about people that
Lashley?
were up there, like AJ Styles. Lashley, yeah.
Like, I mean,
but that's a handful of people in 7 years.
I mean, you got to remember, when you say AJ Styles actually held the title for a solid year.
Yeah, and now he's just floundering in the mid-card against Karrion Kross. Like, I feel like sometimes you just need to pull the trigger. Like, we talk about him a lot, but LA Knight. This is similar to an LA Knight thing, where you just need to put the title on someone and hope for the best. And, like, putting the title on Mark Henry paid off majorly.
It did.
Absolutely.
It wasn't just the fact he defeated Randy Orton in that match. He fucked him up. Like, just completely fucked him up. And that's one thing I like about Orton. He'll take a beating.
Yep.
That thing with Lesnar, you know, where he completely murdered him.
That just came to mind when you said he could take a beating.
You know what's funny? On the podcast, so I've been listening to Talkers Jericho a lot. Jericho and Lesnar nearly came to blows behind the curtain over that. Because Jericho didn't know it was a work.
Yeah, apparently Jericho said something along the lines of... No, Lesnar said something along the lines of either kiss me or hit me.
And Jericho almost bit his nose off. He had to be... the funny thing is, if you listen to that story, Hunter tried to get involved, and they both basically told Hunter to fuck off, or they were going to start on him. It took Vince to stand in between them. So he beats Randy Orton. Okay, on the 18th of September. I'm going to go through some of his title defenses. Okay, on the next SmackDown, he beats Christian, because this was when Christian was doing his one more match thing. He beat him in a lumberjack match. So this is a blast from the past. The lumberjacks are Wade Barrett, Heath Slater, Daniel Bryan, Sin Cara, ATG, Terry Watson, Ed DiBiase Jr., Justin Gabriel, Great Khali, Ezekiel Jackson, Kofi Kingston, Aaron Young, Jimmy and Jey Uso. Jesus Christ, that shows how long they've been around for.
Oh, yes.
Titus O'Neil, Airborne, Alex Riley, God, remember him. Heath Slater, Derek Bateman, that's Justin Bateman's illegitimate son. Yoshi Takahashi.
That was EC3.
Zack Ryder, Jinder Mahal, he's been around a long time as well, hasn't he? And Mason Ryan.
Oh, Mason Ryan.
That is the C card of well, apart from Barrett maybe, because he's a 5-time Intercontinental Champion, and Bryan, that was very much the C card of WWE back then.
Yeah, that was the filler. Hence why hardly any of them are in the company anymore.
Yeah, so he then defeated Orton again, Orton and Sheamus. He then had a program where he beat the Great Khali twice. Didn't just beat the Great Khali, murdered him. No contest because the Khali couldn't continue. He had a DQ against Orton because he murdered Orton. You'll find that this is a ongoing theme in his title defenses. He loses matches by DQ. So he beat John Morrison, who's your favourite wrestler. He beat Randy Orton in a street fight. And then he starts a massive. There's a few more into between here, but then the thing that he's most remembered for, in my opinion, during his title defense, his title reign, is his promo with the Big Show.
Yep.
So that started in Europe. He defeated the Big Show a couple of times. He then defeated a young CM Punk. Defeated Alberto Del Rio. If you see it, he's going through them. It's not just one or two, is it? He's going through a lot of people here.
Yeah.
And then basically it becomes Mark Henry versus the Big Show and Mark Henry versus Randy Orton for 2 entire months every week.
So if you go through that list of people, he's put with people that are proper workhorses. Like, you can say what you want about the Big Show, but the Big Show can have an amazing match.
Oh, I forgot to mention, he also beat Cody Rhodes a couple of times, a young Cody Rhodes.
Right? So he's with people that can go in there and can bump around, can sell for him, but also know how to put an amazing match on, and I think that helps a lot. One thing I want to touch upon is, in your opinion, what do you think previously helped Mark Henry get to this point and make the Hall of Pain so good? Because in my head, I have an idea. I want to see if you have the same sort of conclusion.
I'll let you lead on this one. I'm interested to hear what you say.
So if you look at the caliber of opponents he has here, and then you go back sort of to 2005, 2006.
I'm actually looking at his complete match list. Some genius on Pro Fight. Pro Fight, have you ever heard of them? They've got every single wrestler's match in their entire career.
Sounds about right. Yeah, this sort of leads me into this, because his first initial push where he was wrestling The Undertaker and stuff, those opponents he wrestled there are of much different caliber to these ones. For example, he's taken on The Undertaker. He's taken on Kurt Angle. I think
that was a brilliant match. Sorry to interrupt you. That Rumble match with Angle, he was made to look so strong because Angle rolled him up. I remember that. He couldn't keep him down, could he? Angle.
And I think it's these type of matches that really help make the Hall of Pain so good. I think if you would have swapped people like Angle and Taker for, I don't know, a Randy Orton, a Big Show, in this era, I don't think he would have learned enough to get to the Hall of Pain momentum.
So you're saying that because of his longevity, he actually wrestled people like Angle, Taker. He's got a loss to The Rock. He's got a loss to Stone Cold. So he's wrestled through generations.
Not only has he wrestled through generations, he's wrestled through multiple generational main event players.
Yeah.
He's not just wrestled, generating multi-generational wrestlers. He's been in the ring with them across the top of the card, which I think is what helps a lot, because you can learn so much, I imagine, from doing that. And not only does it do that, but a lot of people, I would assume, think Mark Henry's just a dude that goes in there and throws people around. He went 16 minutes with Kurt Angle. A lot of people say they couldn't go 10 minutes without getting blown up by Kurt Angle. He went 16. And I think that's something that's overlooked. He had some longish matches, longer than you would expect.
You would, as you said, because of his size, you would expect him to struggle. But I think it might be to do with his athletic background, possibly, the cardio.
Both of his matches with Orton, 20 minutes long.
And he went with Orton in a steel cage.
Yeah, that was a 21-minute match.
Just looking at something here. Put
that into perspective for you. The Undertaker's match with the Great Khali, another big man. Guess how long they went?
6 minutes.
The longest one's 11 minutes.
Khali's famous for blowing up in the ring.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, because I would say Khali is probably... he's less bulky, so you'd think he'd have a bit more mobility and would blow up less. He's wrestling The Undertaker, who's a slower opponent than a Kurt Angle. But Mark Henry's going in there and taking Kurt Angle for 16 minutes. You can say what you want, but the athleticness of Mark Henry, I think, is so underrated, like you were saying earlier.
absolutely. I'm going through his matches. He also, he actually challenged for the WWE title quite a few times after his World Championship reign.
Yep.
He also challenged it against Cena. So I think he's one of those people who people tend to forget he was quite involved for a good couple of years, wasn't he, in the main title scene?
Yeah, he was around for a while. And once he was sort of out the
Yeah.
main event scene, he was still in that sort of upper tier, US title intercontinental sort of bracket.
Here's a bonus question for you. Who did he defeat for the ECW title?
Oh, I want to say Christian, but I don't think it was.
Tommy
Kane?
Dreamer. Tommy
Dreamer.
He also fought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He also defeated Fit Finlay seven nights in a row on the European tour in Belfast Brawls. Now, I don't care what you say. The idea of fighting Fit Finlay 7 nights in a row will make you a tough man.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Finlay is not
I
something
think
to
his
mess with.
the best thing that I remember from. Do you remember when he had a match against Orton in a steel cage, and I believe this is where he went through the cage. He threw Orton through the cage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean some of their work was fantastic, and then with the Big Show, the Big Show beat him for the title, but then Mark Henry beat him up so badly, left him in a pile of chairs that Daniel Bryan cashed in. I don't know if you remember about that.
Oh, I remember.
Utterly murdered him after the bell.
I very much remember that. The superplex as well. Mark Henry and Big Show breaking the ring.
Yes, was that the first or second time the ring had ever been broken? Didn't Brock break it?
That was the second. The Brock and the Big Show broke it the first time, I believe.
Yeah. Did JBL get put through the ring by the Big Show as well, didn't he? And he crawled out and won the fucker. Brilliant. Sorry.
That barbed wire steel cage match.
Yeah, never did that again, did they?
No, because it was a flop. It was just a steel cage match.
Barbed
They didn't
wire
use the
around
barbed
it.
wire at all.
So, Mark Henry, 874 matches in his career, 78 pay-per-view matches. Now, that's good even for somebody who was considered not a main eventer for most of his career.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. Does he have a 5-star match?
Definitely not.
Doubt it. He has a 4-star match.
Oh.
4.5-star match versus Rusev.
Really?
I've read that wrong. Apologies.
I was going to
The
say.
Survivor Series match was a 4.5-star match. The
Right.
Rusev match was a 3/4-star match.
Okay, good.
Elimination Chamber, Jack Swagger, 4-star match. Meltzer's on crack. Meltzer's on crack. What's a dud? A DUD. Does Meltzer give 0 stars?
Yep.
I never knew that.
Yep.
The Undertaker versus Mark Henry got 0 stars.
Love it.
What? Kurt Angle versus Mark Henry at the Royal Rumble 06 got 0.75 stars. I seem to remember that match being really good.
You know what? We should do a watch along. We should load that match up and we should do a watch along for the audience at some point.
Yeah,
I remember that match
the
being
match
better.
where Taker re-debuted his Dead Man thing? And
Yeah,
he
with
came
the
with
horses
the
at the end, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Next week, we'll load it up at the same time. We'll do some commentary and we'll watch that match because I remember that match being really good.
Commentary. That sounds like a great idea. We should do wrestling commentaries. I really want to do that Unforgiven pay-per-view. It's my favourite match. Look, historically, my favourite match that I can remember is The Undertaker versus The Rock versus Kurt Angle for the Undisputed title.
Yes.
Do you know that one?
Yes.
Where everybody hit everybody with their finishing moves.
Yeah,
each other's finishing moves.
I remember.
Absolutely. So anyway, we're digressing off the subject. To keep it a little bit shorter, how would you rate Mark Henry's career?
How would you like me to rate it? On a scale of 1 to 10?
I would like you to rate it on a scale of Dolph Ziggler to Cena.
Okay. I would rate it a Matt Hardy.
Matt Hardy?
I think Mark
Wow.
Henry is severely underrated. I think he probably held a spot in the company that no one expected him to hold, and I think he gave a lot of fresh air to a lot of people. Because it's very easy to say, oh, we got a new main eventer. But when you've got 6 other main eventers, that's now 6 new matchups you can have.
Mm.
Like, that's a long period of time you can have some freshness in wrestling.
He
And
never
when you have...
outstayed his welcome in the main
No,
event scene either.
no. Like, yeah, I think Mark Henry is severely underrated, and I think he's one of those people that will unfortunately get his props a little too late.
Yeah, I'm just reading here 2 facts for you. His salary in WWE was 900 grand.
Okay.
And that was his 10-year salary. We're giving him 900 grand for 10 years straight, which, if you think about it, is a good deal.
Yeah, it's really good.
And he also, the reason why he left WWE is actually all to do with that promo with Randy Orton. He was so upset about how they disrespected him in the back, because that promo, on top of the fact that with all of his career, all of his knowledge, they refused to give him an office job.
Right. And now AEW have given him an office job.
He said it was the disrespect of he kept giving them spreadsheets, PowerPoints, reasons why. Other wrestlers gave him references, and he was getting turned down by people like John Laurinaitis. And he felt, after all of his career at WWE, Brad Bloom, if you've ever heard of Brad Bloom,
Yep.
either Brad Bloom or Vince McMahon should have come to him and spoke to him and given him a reason why. But he kept getting told no by John Laurinaitis, and it upset him a lot.
To be honest, I think
He walked out, and Tony Khan signed him on £1 million a year contract instantly.
I think he's a great pickup for AEW. The guy can talk. He could put on some good matches. He had that longevity. But why would you not want him around? I would take a Mark Henry over John Laurinaitis any day.
I think now all would have kept him.
100%.
Look what happened when they fired Regal. They fired Regal. Regal went to AEW. Paul got some control back. I guarantee Regal was one of the first people Paul Levesque called and said, "Come back."
100%.
And, Regal was very clever, actually. He only ever signed 3-month contracts at a time with AEW. Yep. I think he always knew he was going to come back.
Yeah, I assume he was probably a fly on the wall for what was going to be happening with Vince, and knew it was only a matter of time. Because for a long period of time, he was Triple H's right-hand man. And
he is, to an extent, still. He does the same job that he was doing before, but he's off TV now.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're digressing again. Anyway, that was all about Mark Henry.
Now, are we agreeing that we're going to do this watch-along for the Royal Rumble match then?
Yes, we're going to do a watch-along commentary, Royal Rumble 2006, Mark Henry versus Kurt Angle for the WWE Championship.
So you can look forward to that coming soon. We will hopefully now crack out another podcast, but I'll see how my co-host is feeling. But if you're watching, don't forget to like the video. It helps us amazingly. If you're new to the channel and you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps amazingly. And hopefully, we'll see you in the next podcast.
Okay, take care, guys. Bye.
Bye, guys.